Hi, my name is Mithran Pradeep Kumar. My edX username is the real Mithran Pradeep at the gmail.com and my GitHub username is Mithran Pradeep Kumar. I'm recording this video on May 23rd, 2025. I chose the 23andMe data breach for this final project because it highlights how basic security practices like password management can have massive consequences, especially when highly sensitive data is involved. What makes this case unique is that attackers didn't break into servers or exploit complicated software bugs. They simply logged in using real usernames and passwords that had already been leaked elsewhere. This directly connects with the topics we've covered in the course, like authentication mechanisms, brute force mitigation, and user privacy protections. It's a perfect example of how everyday decisions, like reusing passwords, can create vulnerabilities in even the most trusted systems. Before we get into the breach, let's take a moment to understand what 23andMe actually does. 23andMe is a biotechnology company that provides direct to consumer genetic testing. Customers receive a saliva collection kit in the mail, send back a sample, and then receive online access to detailed reports. These can include insights about your ancestry, your ethnic background, and even your genetic health risks, like predisposition to certain diseases. It's a powerful service, but it also stores extremely sensitive personal data, including genetic markers, family relationships, and medical information. Thus, it makes it a very attractive target for hackers, data brokers, or even state level actors. So, when an attacker gains unauthorized access to a account, it's not just an email or a phone number that's at risk, it's someone's entire genetic profile, and potentially that of their relatives too. So, what happened? In the October of 2023, 23andMe confirmed a major data breach that impacted millions of users, about 6.9 million accounts. Here's the important part. Attackers didn't hack the backend systems, exploit zero-day vulnerability, or bypass firewalls. Instead, they took advantage of something very human: password reusage. Using a technique called credential stuffing, they took usernames and passwords from previous data breaches on other websites like Netflix, LinkedIn, or Dropbox and tried logging into 23andMe using those same credentials. Because many users reuse passwords across services, a surprising number of accounts were successfully accessed. Once inside, the attackers downloaded sensitive data including ancestry information, genetic matches, and family tree connections. In some cases, they were even able to view partial health data depending on the account settings. So now let's dig in a bit deeper into what credential stuffing really is. Credential stuffing is a type of brute force attack, but it doesn't rely on guessing passwords. Instead, attackers start with a known list of usernames and passwords, often bought on the dark web or leaked from prior breaches, and then use automated tools to try those credentials on other websites. It's like taking a key you found and trying it on a bunch of houses in the neighborhood. You're not breaking the lock, you're just hoping the key fits. And if people reuse passwords, it often does. There are even credential stuffing tools that try hundreds or thousands of logins per minute. Without proper defenses like rate limiting, IP blocking, or multi factor authentication, sites can be overwhelmed and silently exploited. Now, let's look at what the attackers accessed. What was stolen? First, they obtained basic account information like names, email addresses, and profile details. More dangerously, they accessed genetic information tied to users' DNA results. This includes ethnic background, ancestry reports, and connections to other users in their family tree. Through the DNA relatives feature, where users can opt to find people who share similar DNA, attackers could map out interconnected families. Even if someone didn't reuse the password themselves, their data could be exposed if a relative did. For users who had opted in to the health related reports, the attackers may have been able to view sensitive medical risk information as well. So we're not just talking about names and email addresses, we're talking about the digital blueprint of a person's biology, including potential medical history and family ties. This kind of information could be used for fraud or even blackmail. Why did this happen? So, how did 23andMe allow this to happen? There were a few key failures. Firstly, 23andMe did not require multi factor authentication or 2FA for users. That means all someone needed to log in was username and password, even if that password was reused and compromised. Secondly, they did not implement strong rate limiting or IP monitoring to detect abnormal login activity. Attackers were able to identify thousands of credential combinations without being stopped. Thirdly, once an account was breached, it gave access to connected DNA relatives through the DNA relatives feature, massively expanding the scope of the breach. A single compromised account might expose dozens or even hundreds of relatives' profiles. The breach shows how even one weak spot like not having 2FA can have cascading effects when privacy sensitive data is involved. How do we prevent this and such an attack in the future? There are clear lessons here, and they are both for users and companies. For the users, never reuse passwords across sites. Use a password manager to create strong, unique passwords for each account. Always enable two factor authentication wherever it's offered. Even if your password is compromised, 2FA can stop an attacker. Be cautious about opting into features that expose additional data like family trees or health reports unless you understand the privacy risks. For companies, they should strongly encourage 2FA. They should use rate limiting and monitoring to detect unusual login patterns. They should automatically lock accounts after multiple failed login attempts as seen in other major service providers. They should minimize data exposure, especially to related accounts, and implement zero trust principles wherever possible. This breach could have been prevented with very basic safeguards that are well known in the industry but were still overlooked. To conclude, the 23andMe breach is a textbook case of a non technical vulnerability leading to a very technical disaster. The attackers didn't break any systems, they logged in with real credentials that users had reused. This case reinforces what we've learned in the course, that authentication is the first line of defense and it's often the weakest one. Good security hygiene, like using 2FA, enforcing rate limits, and limiting account exposure, isn't optional when the stakes involve biological and medical data. Hopefully, more companies will learn from this breach and take stronger steps to protect user privacy in the future. Thank you for watching and have a great day ahead.